I can tell you, Facebook's like a wonderland. It was pretty wild. Like, Menlo, like so I got to work in the Menlo Park office, which is HQ. And a lot of people on there, big company, big office, lots of buildings. I think there's like, I don't know how many restaurants on the campus. I didn't count, but it was definitely more than like 10 for sure. A lot of places to eat, like micro kitchens everywhere. You're just like, your food is never like too far from you. Like you can just like stretch your hand this way and touch a snack or touch a food. Like it was crazy. And when I joined the team at Facebook, so I worked on ads manager. And got to really like work on really cool stuff there. And with the internship itself, it was I tell people it was the hardest thing I've had to do so far.
All right, so we ended on you introducing Pilot Interactive. So what was that internship like, and how was the experience like? Also, I know you also went to Transparent Kitchen after that. So if you could talk a little bit about both, that would be amazing.
Sure. So with Pilot was my first design internship, pure design. No, like you're just kind of an engineer on a design team. It was like a designer as a designer. So that was in Toronto. There was a small team. They saw my work, thought it was really cool, and thought to join the team. So that was really awesome and really validating as well to kind of finally get my first design role. And what was also really interesting about that position was I got it basically beginning of January. Like I was getting really close. I was cutting it really close on design and like on like the window to get internships, as you know, like is really small.
Yeah.
By like January-ish, a lot of people want to fill positions by then. I think I got the offer on January, February, so like you're kind of cutting it really tight by then. If you get an offer, like a few and far between. So, and that by this time I'd gone through a lot. I'd gotten rejections. It was around the time that I got my first rejection from Facebook. Got rejections from MailChimp, Microsoft, a bunch of places basically, like both big and small, just rejections everywhere. And then I got this internship. And really what was kind of the big thing about this internship, it was my first opportunity to work within the context of a design team. Even though it was small and it was still a team, it was just another designer other than me, which is really cool. And she was also really senior. And so, or at least senior than me. And so like what was really cool there was I got an opportunity to hone my craft for a bit, kind of like polish it just a little bit. Stuff around like how do you structure files, how do you hand off to another designer, like stuff like that just made my work really like much better and allowed me to be in a better place for my next internships. And so at the end of that one, I left that internship so end of the summer, felt feeling really great about myself and great about the fact that I got my first design role. Around that time, I had taken a trip back to Ottawa for a bit. And that was when I got introed to Transparent Kitchen by a really good friend of mine who's a VC here in Ottawa. He's an angel investor. So he was like, hey, do you want to meet this cool company? I was like, yeah, sure. Met them. What I found really interesting about Transparent Kitchen is that one of their founders was a designer. So I thought that was really cool. So I joined that company, and what they were doing there, and they were actually my first time working on a product. Okay. So all my design role before was at an agency, but I'd never done product work. And so that was my first time joining a team, building a product and trying to ship something. And so there, what was really interesting there was I also got to design, but with the goal of like, how does design impact product strategy? Okay. And thinking about like, where we have a goal, they had a product out already. There were strategies around how that product should evolve, and there was ways design like fit into that. So it was really cool to like say, okay, there's a way we want this product to go. How is design helping move this needle forward? Whether it's helping us get more like B2C customers, and that's the goal there. And so design is enabling that. So that was a really, really cool space to be in. And it was actually around that time that I got my first Facebook, got the offer from Facebook. And so that's really been the span of a year. Finished, so I joined Transparent Kitchen in January of this year, and finished that in April, and then joined Facebook in May. And so that's kind of the thing with those two experiences: Pilot Interactive, honing my craft; Transparent Kitchen, then using that craft to impact product strategy at some level. And that's a really cool thing about startups. You kind of just zoom in on something. And then with Facebook, before I dive into that, because we're going to go into that, I think it's really interesting to think about like what the experience is like, or what was going through my head, thinking about like, why do I want to work here? Like, why SF? Like, why this place? I think like before even getting to Facebook, I think there's something to be said about like wanting to work in San Francisco, because I could have probably just kept that trajectory of Pilot Interactive, Transparent Kitchen. I did try for Shopify once. I could have probably like eventually the second time gotten to Shopify probably, and just kind of keep the trajectory there. I think like with SF, what's really interesting about working in San Francisco, working in Silicon Valley, is this idea that you're kind of surrounded by a lot of really smart people. And what I want to emphasize there is it doesn't mean that there aren't smart people anywhere else. There are. But I personally believe that there is the largest concentration of really smart people in one place. And it's really hard to recreate that anywhere else. I don't know much about the history of San Francisco, but I do know that something along the way has created this like incredible ecosystem of really, really smart people condensed in one place. I also wanted to just work on really tough challenges. I wanted to work on really, really tough challenges. And again, the concentration of that just happened to be there. And then with Facebook, the goal there was this idea of how do I work for a company that is solving some of the hardest problems around like the frontier of user privacy, the frontier of how we relate with the internet world. Like a lot of that is changing over the next couple of years, and so Facebook kind of had this really, to me, it felt like a really interesting opportunity to tackle those problems. I still think they're a really interesting opportunity to like tackle those problems, because they're just right at the frontier of those problems, and the frontier is often very messy, but that's what it is.
We talked about Clipfolio, we talked about Pilot Interactive, and Transparent Kitchen, and you talked about your interview with Facebook there. So I want to talk about what that interview process was like. What was it like getting the offer? What was your reaction, and how was your actual internship like at Facebook? Yeah,
that's really awesome, and I love talking about that experience, because like Facebook for me is the culmination of about 2 years of work. A lot of people, if you know this, went through the Facebook process essentially twice. My first rejection was around fall of 2017. My second rejection was around fall of 2018.
Okay.
And my first offer was early 2019. So I kind of also got rejected, and then I got rejected a little earlier, but then got an offer later. So it's kind of in the same time frame.
Even though you got like rejected twice, it's really important that you kept it up.
Facebook was a very personal goal for me. It was a very personal goal. There were a lot of barriers. There's a lot of companies I could have worked at, but Facebook was very personal for me. And for me, it was really important that I worked there, because one, I thought the people were pretty awesome. I thought the opportunity to learn was probably greatest there. And two, I wanted to be in the Bay. I wanted to check out what it was like to be in the Bay and work in the Bay Area. So that process against Facebook is really interesting. The first rejection was was actually because, or how I got the first rejection, or how I got the first interview rather, was through a referral. So who hustled that to get that, and really how that happened was I connected with somebody on Twitter, and we had a video chat for a bit, and then he was like, hey, what are you doing for your summer internship? I was like, nothing, but like I'm kind of interested in Facebook. And then he was like, okay, let me connect you with somebody who works at Facebook. And then next thing you know, it was like somebody was like, yeah, I'll refer you. And that's kind of how that went. Super random, but I think a lot of times too, and I'm really the first person to say like I got really lucky too. Like there's a lot of my life, all the path to Facebook that was just luck meeting preparation, right? So the parts you can control are luck. The parts you can't control is preparation. But 9 times out of 10, 80% of it is preparation, and then there's that 20 or 10% luck that really like knocks things out of the park for you. So interviewed there the first time, and really what that interview process is like at Facebook is you basically do a portfolio review as a designer. So it's really important as a designer to have to have a portfolio. And then that then leads into an app critique. And really what that looks like is you do, you and a designer kind of on a video chat, take a look at an app, usually something something different from what you usually do, or not something Facebooky, and then you critique it. You just kind of think out loud around like what's going on in this app and how is things designed, and kind of talk back and forth with the designer about that, and really just trying to see your ability to critically think, and also to give feedback, because that's a big part of your work as a designer, is your ability to give that feedback. So that's kind of the first process. I went through that. The process was the same the second time, pretty much the same thing. Yeah. But really what I did after that first rejection, I think like made things maybe different, was I actually kept in touch with my recruiter. I think a lot of people sometimes maybe don't do that. I don't know how often people do that, but my recruiter and I actually built a connection over the last 2 years, and I got to meet him for the first time when I moved to Dubai this last summer. And so that connection, really what that was, is I would just update him on like what I was doing, and update him on new jobs I'd taken or new internships I'd taken. I did the offer, I got the rejection, and then emailed him when I got the offer from Pilot Interactive. I said, hey, I didn't join Facebook. Well, I'm joining this design agency though. And that was, it seems really weird, but it can be really powerful way to also show your growth.
Yeah.
I think that was what worked about it. It's not that it was also like heart touching. It was also like it allowed him to paint a picture of my growth over time. So he's seeing me join a design agency, then he's seeing me go to a startup, and he's seeing the amount of work I take on change. Like before, I'm like, oh, I'm just designing this page, but now I'm doing like feature level work at a startup. Because a startup, they had me like own search, which is really cool, like a really big, like chunky part of the product. Or before, I was working on just a page or something like that. So like, and the scope of my work and the breadth of it is also, you can paint that growth over time. And I would also tell him about the side projects that I did. I told him when I did uOttawa and became design lead for that. I told him when I launched Black Suit Design, and that was a really interesting project. Just a side note, like Black Suit Design is a project that I launched February of this year, 2019, and we'd launched it around Black History Month, and the idea was to create a platform to raise the voices of Black designers in tech. It was like, how can we just give a platform to these people that are doing really awesome work? And that was really the goal. But I think it's that idea of like doing impactful work. I think at that scale, like when you're trying to work at Bay Area companies, I think like it's really interesting. Even your side projects, thinking about like, how do I move from side projects that are just like, they can still be fun but have an element of impact. I think I think like that's the next like version 2 of like side projects is like, I have fun side projects like the Jiffy one, that was fun but relatively no impact, unless you're like really into GIFs. The Black Suit Design one and uOttawa and like all the different stuff I picked up over that period of time, like those were really impactful work. And so the second time around, did the interview, got a rejection around that time. I was like, I'm just gonna do this again. I don't really care. I'm gonna keep trying. And so this is the time I was at Transparent Kitchen, and then summertime was getting close for 2019. I was interviewing I was starting to explore other options in the Bay, some options that would take me out to LA, some other options that would keep me in SF in the Bay Area. When my recruiter reached out to me and said, hey, like, would you like to join Facebook? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, that's awesome. And of course, I still went through like a mini like interview loop, and then got that offer. Okay. Yeah.
So one of the things I think about for interviews, at least in software engineering, it's that you have to like grind lead code, data structures and algorithms, and it's a lot of reviewing of those things and those concepts. But for design interviews, it's always different, right? So what is the one thing you would recommend designers do in order to be better prepared?
It's funny, as you say this, I'm also preparing for a design interview myself. And I think like what's really important about design interviews, and I think probably cuts across all interviews, because you did mention that they're different, but I think like what probably makes them different isn't what you think it is. Like, I think a lot of people think they're different because, like one's lead code and then one's this. Both are relatively looking for the same thing, looking for like the point of an interview is to look for a signal on something. So once you know what signals they're looking for, you can then reverse engineer how to give off those signals. So with lead code and technical and like whiteboarding and all that fun stuff, the idea is to understand, one, how do you think on your feet? Two, are you collaborative and do you have a basic understanding of, you know, the stuff that you're going to be doing, and we'll do that. We'll test for that with some kind of question. With design, what they're looking for, again, like how do you collaborate? Two, you know, how do you, and I guess how do you work? What's your process like? So if I were to say, okay, what's one thing I want designers, people going to design interviews for internships or full time, is really making it clear what your process is like. And then a slight addendum to that, I would add, really spend time to frame the problem. I think a lot of people go into interviews, especially with design, because what you're doing 9 times out of 10, the bulk of design interview is your portfolio review. That's a big one. And it's often always decides whether or not we even bother like trying to test for all the other signals. Like we want to just see like, what's your body of work like? If those don't, and it's not hitting the right levels, then everything else may not even be worth testing for. But this is not every company, but most companies operate this way. And so what a portfolio review does is it gives you an opportunity to show them, this is how when a problem comes to me, this is how I walk through these problems to get to a solution. So I think focusing on what that process is like, how you show that off, like the ways you do it is up to you, but by making sure at the end of the day, you've given the signal for that is probably the most important thing.
So we talked about the interview process and the offer. So how was the actual internship like?
I can tell you, Facebook's like a wonderland. It was pretty wild. Like, so I got to work in the Menlo Park office, which is HQ. There's a lot of people on there, big company, big office, lots of buildings. I think there's like, I don't know how many restaurants on the campus. I didn't count, but it was definitely more than like 10 for sure. A lot of places to eat, like micro kitchens everywhere. You're just like, your food is never like too far from you. Like you can just like stretch your hand this way and touch a snack or touch a food. Like it was crazy. And when I joined the team at Facebook, so I worked on ads manager, and got to really like work on really cool stuff there. And with the internship itself, it was I tell people it was the hardest thing I've had to do so far. 110%. Which was the point, right? It was supposed to be like it was supposed to be a 10x of my skills, because I really like to put myself as much as I can in as many like. I really like to push my comfort zone. Like that's really how I find growth. And if you look at my trajectory, it was like Clipfolio, like 100, 200 person company. And then, I was switching into design. So I started with like a design agency, really small, then moved to a startup, also really small. And then I was like, I'm just gonna like go straight to like a large company. That's the trajectory here. No middle stage where we're working on like mid-sized companies. We're like, no, we're just gonna go straight to like companies that are like 10,000 people. Got it. So that transition was really tough, I will say. It was definitely like a shock. I was like, whoa, this is a lot of people. But what I will say that was really, really crazy about that internship is the scale of work. And it's probably the biggest thing I learned at Facebook is how to design, own, and ship things at scale. I think like that's probably what a lot of people gain out of like big 4 companies or like working at large companies like that. At least if you're doing it right, you're learning like how to ship at scale. It's like the work you're doing is no longer just like 100,000 people or 200,000 people. It's like easily 10 million or 100 million people. Easily, Facebook has about 2 billion users. So like
that's crazy.
Like your scale of work. If you were only working at like 0.1, if your work was only touching 0.1%, you're still reaching a lot. I don't even know what that percentage is, but it's like a lot of people still. So that can be like a really crazy like mind shift to make. It's like, whoa, my work has like a lot of impact. But Facebook is really trusting, and they create this environment for you to like also do that work. And so it didn't take me very long to adjust as well, to say, okay, I'm here, I'm present, I got here, it's time to do some really cool work. And so that's what I did. But it wasn't, again, I cannot stress, was not without its fun. Like living in the Bay was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Facebook covers a lot of like your housing stuff and all that fun stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. And campus, again, is like a wonderland. You're just like biking between offices and just like having a really, really fun time. Like obviously once your work is done, and again, it's really easy to just like kind of show up to work and just like mess around all day. Like it's like no one's really like hounding you. Like no one's gonna be like, hey, like as long as you're not missing meetings, like no one's gonna be like, hey, like where's your project? It's like you're responsible for like for like time forecasting your own project. You're responsible for looking for the proper like people within the company or within your team to help move that project forward. You're responsible for all of that. Like I used to run meetings at Facebook. It was crazy. Like my manager would be like, yeah, you're the one running that meeting. And I would like come in and like, thanks everyone for being here, and plug my laptop in and like walk them through like what I'm trying to get done and what I want everyone to like help move forward on this. Like that to me was crazy. Like these are people who, like these are full-timers and I'm here like leading meetings. It's crazy. I got to do some user research work there as well. So interviewing people and working within those systems and knowing these are people who use Facebook or help like move that, like, they're part of that system. So this again, like I keep coming back to scale. Like the scale of work was just like, once I finished Facebook, I really felt like I could handle just about any project. Like I could take many project, look at it and say, okay, this is how it can break down. This is how I can forecast it. This is how we're gonna like get this done. And I think like that's the biggest thing there, design and ownership at scale. And anything memorable, like they really know how to like make the interns feel at home. Like that's something else that I felt really there. You can message anybody and just grab lunch with them. Like that's something I do a lot. And I encourage a lot of people who, even if you're not in a Big Four internship, if you're in any internship, like meet people. Like I think a lot of interns and students try to like, you know, be like, I'm an intern. I'm like, I've never thought that. Back in, like maybe in high school, I used to think, oh no, I'm gonna fetch coffee. Like you're not here to fetch coffee. You're here to like have impact. Like that's the point.
Yeah.
And so that to me was, you know, I got to message anybody and everybody and just like get meetings. I would have like my lunch, like I block off time, and it was like always filled with somebody, like grabbing lunch with somebody. That was crazy. It was wild. And these are people who like, they design on Marketplace, or they design on this, or they design for AR, they design for AI, they design for responsible ethics, they design for ads, they design for portal, like so many different things at the company. And I just like pinged them and I'm like, hey, do you want to grab lunch? And they're like, sure, where do you want to meet? And it's like, that to me was just wild. I got to do a hackathon project at the company, and that was really cool. Like it was just like I can't really talk about what I did there for the project, but like I got to like really it was just like we assembled a team of interns, other interns. I think we were like 10 of us, and we like built something new, and we got to like demo it and show it off to people. And I also got to talk. I actually got to a VP saw my project, and he was like, "Yo, this is really cool. We should build this." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's super awesome." And so like those kind of experiences to me are just like when I look back on it, were super amazing. Like they're the kind of things that really, really, really make you think like, yeah, I can do this. Like, and I think it wasn't up until Facebook that I finally realized that, yeah, I'm a designer. It's like for a while I've always been like, oh, I don't know, I might just go back into engineering. Because I mean, there was a point when I was first starting out in engineering where like I think Shopify reached back out and they're like, hey, you did really well on our last one. You didn't get an offer, but like you kind of did pretty good. Like, do you want to try again? And I think I was doing so hot on design interviews. I was like, okay, Shopify's gonna be an out here. Like I could just like, if I just take this, nail it, Shopify's not a bad place to be. It's a pretty great spot to be. And I remember saying no. I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm looking for design internships right now, so I'm gonna turn down this offer to interview. It was an offer to interview. They were gonna like get me through the process a little quicker. And I was like, hey. And I was like, no, I'm gonna try and be a designer and try to figure that out. And this was even before Pilot, so I hadn't even gotten up with the first internship yet.
Wow.
So looking back from that and looking at Facebook now, it's like, whoa, I'm here. I mean, I'm still got a long way to go, but you know, like I kind of feel like a designer now. So I think that was a lot of what I got out of that internship and the entire path there as well.
So that's all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, man. Like,
I know that you're interviewing now and I don't have a lot of time. So thanks for coming out today.
No problem. I really appreciate you having me. Yeah.
All right. If you guys want to reach out to Tolu, here is his contact info.
Yeah, sure. So if you want to reach out to me, best way is probably over email. So all of this will be in the
description below.
Yeah. But it's toluwanimiolubode@gmail.com. That's toluwanimiolubode@gmail.com. Horribly long email address, but it's my full name. And on Instagram, TXLUU. On Twitter, TXLUU. for some reasons. And then I think everywhere else is probably, I don't really hang out there, but Twitter, Instagram, and email are probably the best way to reach me. If you take my name and the thing and put it in LinkedIn, that's also really cool to reach out there on LinkedIn. I'm also down for that. But I'm always down to answer questions because somebody answered questions for me when I started as well. So yeah.
All right. Thanks again for coming, and that's it for the video.
It's a cut. It's a wrap. Bam. Yeah, put that in there.